today we're diving into the unconscious autopilot that we live our daily lives, the routines, the habits that we get into that make us who we are.
Yeah, this is a big one. This is a really, really broad topic.
It is,
We can go a lot of different directions with this.
We'll hone in. We'll get in.
We'll make it make sense.
Yeah, I think we should start off by kind of just mentioning Dr. Joe Dispenza's book.
Yes.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. We posted about it a little while ago, maybe a year ago. One of the breakthrough books personally for myself. Yeah. If you don't know who Dr. Joe Dispenza is, follow him on Instagram immediately. I think his handle is @Dr. Joe Dispenza, or look him up. I mean, he's
really easy to find.
Yes.
He's everywhere.
And he's known for this movement of healing from within. He healed himself from an insane injury. And it's all about the power of the mind and how the mind itself is so powerful. But we get into these habits and routines very unconsciously, basically just going through the monotonous day-to-day tasks that we need to do, whether they're big or small, kind of that flow state, like not even realizing what you're doing because you've just done it every single day for 10, 20, 40 years.
Yeah, and it's important. Like you need that to stay alive.
Yes.
You need it, like if you needed to keep reminding your heart to beat
of course.
To take a breath, you wouldn't be able to do anything else. You'd just sit there all day and breathe and beat your heart.
Yeah, and you want that comfortability to know kind of how you're going to live your days, because you don't want to have that survival, fight or flight in every instance. We wouldn't be able to live if that's how we were.
Exactly. But then also, like, this can be your best friend, and it can keep you alive, and it can be your biggest enemy.
Yes.
Because we develop these subconscious patterns that become the software of our life. They're what's running all the programs in our body, and we don't even realize that they're happening. So if you've got bad software, your computer's never going to work properly. If you've got bad I don't know if bad's the right word, but if the subconscious patterns that you have running your life aren't optimal, then your life is never going to be optimal.
Right.
And like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like any habit, any part of your life, like your body's going to find the kind of the easiest way to.
Yeah, it's going to find the most efficient way.
Efficient's a good word. Yeah, and that doesn't always mean best. It just means efficient. So like breathing is a great example, because everybody breathes all day. You breathe like 20-something thousand.
And I don't need to remind myself to breathe.
Yeah,
it's just unconsciously doing it.
Yes, 20,000 breaths a day. So if that wasn't happening subconsciously, you could literally just forget to breathe
and die.
So luckily for us, things work efficiently and properly, and we don't need to remember to breathe. But when you look around and watch people, most people are breathing terribly inefficient.
Improperly,
so it's a lot of mouth breathing up in your shoulders and your chest, kind of panicked, short breath.
Yeah, and before we go further, I want people to know that was us. Yeah. Especially me, like 3 years ago, before we really dove into breath work. I was a mouth breather. I didn't walk with my mouth closed, whether outside. I didn't wear tape. Sleeping, we didn't wear tape. I thought I was sleeping with my mouth closed, but it just, your jaw releases, the muscles relax. It was just unconsciously opening because that's the mechanism of your mouth. So I was really breathing improperly. Yeah. And it was causing a lot of issues that I just didn't know.
Exactly. And I was the same way, and neither of us had any idea. Like, the thought never crossed my mind, like, how should I be breathing, until we really started like looking into it. So that's an example of like a subconscious pattern, but your body isn't trying to subconsciously do everything perfect. So like we have to put in the work.
Yeah,
we have to figure out. So to be able to change our breathing, we had to become aware of that pattern pay attention to it. And it starts off sort of like catching yourself throughout the day and noticing like, oh, I'm like sitting here with my mouth wide open like a caveman, like what am I doing? So first it's noticing that you're breathing wrong, trying to like breathe with intention and taking good nasal breaths, deep breaths, fixing that. The tape on the mouth is a great one. I know we've talked about this before, but we tape our mouths shut every night when we go to bed. And that way we know that at least for 8 hours, our mouth is shut. It's also, like Elise mentioned before, like we thought we were doing it right. When you do tape your mouth shut, you realize right away that like, not only have you not been doing this, but you're not used to it because you feel like you're suffocating.
Yes.
And it's kind of scary at first. And it takes a couple of days to get used to that. But then you realize like, oh, okay, like now I am breathing through my nose and I can breathe through my nose. And over time we fixed it. And I feel like I very rarely catch myself like mouth breathing throughout the day. Like it's for the most part all nasal. And yeah, just better quality breathing.
Yes.
But it happened by becoming aware of it and then putting in the work and taking steps to fix it a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I think that's what I want to really get into is becoming aware of it. Because when you're on that autopilot, just going, you're just not thinking of it. And I wanted to do this episode because of what's going on right now with me. So I'm going to just dive into a little like personal stuff. You, lovely, for one of my Christmas presents, gifted me the book, How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera, which again, if you don't know who Dr. Nicole LePera is, follow her immediately on social media. I think her handle is at the Holistic Psychologist. We'll link it in the show notes, but I commend her. She's just brilliant, just a brilliant doctor. She has so many good insights on how to do the work. She healed basically herself just from, her childhood growing up, living in a really stressful environment, having a lot of health issues and not knowing what was going on, but just digging deeper and realizing that these habits, these unhealthy lifestyles, the way that she was living and the way that we all live were causing really harmful dysfunction in her body and her environment. So she changed it. And then she wrote this fabulous book on it, and I'm halfway through. One of the things that is an exercise for journaling prompts is I don't want to give the book away for anyone, but basically just kind of journaling prompts on, what you want to focus on each day. Little, simple, like habits that either you can change or improve upon. And one of those for me the other day was being present in the moment, which really means like focusing on doing one task at a time and being in the moment. Because if anyone knows me, I am on a treadmill in my mind constantly. And I definitely have been a multitasker. I'll be in the middle of two things, if not three at once. I'll be typing, but also washing dishes. I'll be working out, but also like putting away laundry. Like I definitely need to compartmentalize a little bit and just be present in the moment. And as I was doing that, I think I was like in the middle of a home workout that I was doing, and I had set the intention, the goal, I am going to be present in the moment. And then I started to do my workout, and literally unconsciously, I went into the kitchen and started putting away dishes. And I remember stopping and putting one on the counter and be like, oh my God, I didn't even mean to do it, but that was my awareness. I set the intention of being conscious of it. It's okay, I messed up, but that's just a practice that now I've, come to like love each and every day, being really present in the moment. And I'm breaking the habit of being myself. That's why I had mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, because it's not that I'm like looking to change that aspect. It's just making me more aware of what I do every day unconsciously. Because it's not that it's a bad thing that I'm putting away the dishes during the workout, but it is taking away from the efficiency of my workout. And I should really be focusing on the workouts, the movements, the quality that I'm doing. And if I have, 1 minute in between the sets and reps that I'm doing, breathe. be thankful for that moment of rest to get my heart rate down instead of my, again, treadmill brain being like, okay, what can I do around the house?
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's like you are your awareness. So if you're not in the moment and paying and like aware and conscious of what you're doing, like who's doing it? Right. To get real deep, because it's interesting because we go through so many different things throughout the course of the day without putting our awareness on it, without our like intention and our focus. So it's like just like a body moving and going through the motions and doing things, and it's like this could be anything. Like use the example of like breathing before, but then like yours like a better like kind of a more tangible, like,
I wanted
real
to give
world
the example.
thing.
Yes.
But then it's also like, where are your thoughts and beliefs coming from, and the way that you see the world? Is that your own actual awareness in the moment, or is that a pattern that you downloaded from
society
your parents
or
from your
parents,
teachers,
friends?
Because there's so many things that we just take at face value, I guess you'd say, like without ever like we take beliefs, whether it's a religion or a political party, or just like this is how like I feel about like I'm from a Ford family, we don't drive Chevys, like whatever it is, like everybody has a thing.
Okay,
like,
1950s dad.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to think of, like exactly like that. Like just
but
some,
it
like,
is. I understand what you're saying.
Like whatever. Like we go to McDonald's instead of Burger King. Like whatever. Coke versus Pepsi, Republican, Democrat.
I know what you mean.
Choice you're making. Are you making it because that's what you believe in? Or are you making it because somebody gave you that idea at some point, and you're just letting that pattern run, and you're never really thinking of it? So it's just a really, really interesting thing. But your life is the result of all these patterns.
Yes, I was just going to say
So
that.
exactly who you are, where you are right now, is the result of the patterns that have been running subconsciously in your mind for your entire life. And if you don't like where you're at, then the simple solution is to change the patterns. And that's what Joe Dispenza's book is.
Yes.
To bring it back to that. But it's the idea of we have these patterns that are running. They're creating, the world that's outpictured and all around us.
Yes.
And we can change that, but it takes doing the work, and it takes going back.
Which again is why Dr. Nicole LePera named her book "How to Do the Work." It is work. And I think that I'm using the example to hopefully put it, like you said, tangible for people to understand, because it's also, change is really hard for people, and changing yourself is really hard. Not only for myself, because I've been this way my whole life, the treadmill mind, but then it's also, people kind of know that about me, like I'm always doing something or being proactive, organizing, things like that. So it's kind of like, okay, if I change this aspect of me, how am I going to identify? And how are people going to label me? Which is really, really hard, because then you, again, get that treadmill mind. Well, oh my gosh, I can't even think about what people are going to think of me. But that's not your issue. That's not my issue. If you have a perception of me, that's your perception. I can't change it. I can only change me. I'm breaking this habit simply because I want a calmer mind. I want that internal peace. I don't want to be in a heightened anxiety, stress-filled treadmill mind. Not that is always going on, but when I'm constantly thinking of, okay, I started this one task, but I can also do this. Because I can be, a superhuman and do 2 things, 3 things, 4 things at once. It's taking away from that one task that I should be putting all my energy into, no matter what, whether that be cooking a meal, working out, or writing a book, whatever it is. So it's kind of releasing the idea of that labels don't matter, and I'm okay changing and being different. And if anything, that's like the most empowering thing to me, to say that I changed. I did this on my own, And I'm continuing to grow and learn from it every other day. And now I'm going to go on to the next thing. What's the next intention that I can set and work on? Whether that's, being more mindful of my posture in the day, sitting upright as opposed to sojo.
Yeah.
I'm making an example. I'm going to say right now, I haven't mastered the being present. Yeah. I'm still working on it after even being, halfway through the book. It's something that I consciously do every day. And that's what we had mentioned at the beginning here. It takes time, and it's good. It's okay. That's the journey. That's learning.
That's life. It's that process.
Absolutely.
Of becoming.
The work, it's exciting and invigorating if you let it be. If you go into wanting to change something or do something that you already put a negative spin or tone to it, if your mindsets are like, oh, I have to change this thing about myself. I mean, you're not gonna. Yeah. It's not gonna work. You really have to dig deep and want to change and have that positive outlook and say, hey, this might take a day or this might take a year, might take longer than that, but I'm committed to it, and I get to learn and experience and grow from what I'm doing and experiencing. Yeah,
I think that's awesome. And I think it is exactly what you said. It's like such an amazing opportunity to grow and to become more of yourself. Because kind of like I said before, like, you are the awareness. You're not Elise going through the motions doing all these things. You are the awareness of what Elise's experience is like. It's a hard thing to word.
It is. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So, but when you get caught up in identifying with ideas or with things that you do, it becomes so much harder to change them. So just like you said, like, you need to change. I want to change this thing, but like, that's what people identify you as, the multitasker who can do all these things, and you always have it, like, all this stuff going on. If you're not changing to appease other people and make other people comfortable, like, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Because, or I don't know, for failure, but like, you're setting yourself up to not be able to change because you want to stay in what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, you want to change for yourself, not others. Right. I mean, you can't. I mean, I can't make people love me.
Right.
I'm for some people. I'm not for a lot of people.
That's for sure.
And, thanks. But yeah, and I think another example too, like, let's bring it into kind of how we implement little changes with, clients that we've worked with and work with. I would say I didn't realize how challenging this would be for people, some of our clients, having water first thing in the morning with the sea salt and either lime or lemon. I've had to remind people, like, in the morning, or give them the suggestion of basically leaving out, that sea salt and either a lime or lemon right on your countertop or somewhere that you can see it in plain sight. So the first thing when you walk into the kitchen to grab a cup of coffee first, that reminder there. So if you know us, we obviously are very big components of always putting water with a little bit of citrus, either lemon or lime, and a pinch of sea salt first thing in the morning before you have anything else in your stomach, especially if you're having caffeine, coffee or tea or something, because you want that. The combination of the water, the citrus, and the salt is going to energize you immediately anyways, but you want to prime your stomach before you put that harsh, stressful caffeine in it. And it is very difficult for people to break that habit. Again, it is a habit of just going right to the coffee machine, whether it's a Keurig or you just press, a coffee maker, and it's going to make your coffee instantly. But it's something so simple as that. You just need the reminder.
Yeah. And that's one, like, I know we've talked about this before, but with, you're going to be so, like, having the coffee first thing in the morning sets off this cascade of negative effects where your cortisol is going to spike, and the acidity in your stomach, and all these things that you want to avoid. So it's a thing that you kind of know that you're going to be better off drinking the water first and waiting and having your coffee later. But once that pattern is ingrained, it can be a challenge to break it. You have to really want to. Like it happens all the time. Like we just moved our trash barrel.
It's throwing me for a loop.
And it's like we moved the trash. It used to be under the sink. Now we
got a bigger trash.
Got a bigger trash barrel doesn't fit under the sink, and it's like 2 feet away. And we can literally be talking about how we forget that the trash barrel isn't under the sink anymore. As we go to throw something out, and before we go to the trash barrel, we go right to the sink and go to open that door. It's like the struggle is real. Like you really do have to like have that reminder, have something there to like keep reminding yourself until it becomes ingrained.
Second nature, yes, exactly.
Because then once it is, then you have that pattern and you change it.
Yeah.
But the synapses in your brain, like your body's always going to do the thing that's easiest or most comfortable, I think is probably a better way to put it. So like once you do something a few times, you create a connection between synapses in your brain, and it's like autopilot. It's like then it literally becomes autopilot. It's like once one lights up, the path goes straight to the next one. And it's like, this is what we're doing. So it's like if you drive home from work the exact same way every day, you won't even think about it.
Yeah.
And you'll just drive and you'll just take like down the street, take a left, take the next right, like whatever your path is, you'll just take that path. And like so many times, like if you ever like drive somewhere near your work, but you're going somewhere else, like how often do you just like get on the road that you're going and you know where you're going? Like you have this plan to go, you're going to the grocery store or you're going somewhere special for the day. Like we're going to lunch and it's going to be awesome and you're driving in that direction, and then you just take that left because that's the way to work. And you don't even notice it, but like because you're in the car, because you started taking that path, those synapses start firing and it's like, oh, I know what to do, because you weren't present and in the moment. The same things happen with every other aspect of your life where it's like, you know, wake up in the morning, just start walking straight to the coffee maker, and you could be walking there talking to, like thinking to yourself, all right, I'm going to pour a glass of water, I'm going to squeeze some lime into it, and next thing you know, like you smell like the coffee brewing because you just walked in and hit the button and moved on to the next thing in your life. So it really is like, I don't want to say it's hard because it's not always going to be hard, and I don't want to set that precedent because for a lot of people it's not going to be hard. For a lot of people it is just sort of like, let's set the intention to do this thing and do it, and then once you do it every day for a week or two, that's your new pattern and you're good. And for other people, like there's going to be some things that take years, and it's like you set the intention, you do it, you stumble a little bit, you start over, you keep working at it, and that's fine too. Like
that's how you build momentum.
There's no right or wrong. Yes, you just start small and build it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can break really big habits, or you can start with smaller habits. Again, like I said, with the water, or even going to bed earlier, or turning your phone and screens off 30 minutes before bed. That's what we mean by like a habit, something that's very small and incremental that can build up to the next bigger things, because change can be very difficult for people. Now, how do you become consciously aware? I'm sure people are like, well, how the heck do you get there? Personally, I think that what has helped me a lot is meditation, because that's giving you time to sit with just yourself. And there is no outside distractions. There's no chitter chatter in your head, or at least if you can, minimize it as much as possible. That's really the goal of meditation. But I don't think I would be able to change the habits that I'm doing now without that awareness and having meditated for a while, because with meditation, it helps you basically ground yourself and get as many thoughts that are running through, my treadmill head, to lessen, and letting the thoughts come and go. And also really practicing on your breath, stabilizing it, kind of just reinforcing that you're in this present moment right now and there's nothing else that needs to be done. Once you've got that kind of relaxation, it's indescribable unless you're experiencing it, how much clarity you get and how much more aware. You become.
Yeah.
So I do say that if people are like, okay, how do I become aware? Where do I start? I would really say carve out just 5, 6, 7 minutes if you're new to meditation to begin it. And I'd say, just from experience, either first thing in the morning is best, or right before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because that's the time where your brain isn't, again, on autopilot, where you're thinking a million things, the tasks that need to go on during the day, school, work, kids, lunches, driving, drop-offs, movies, parties. When you're first waking up in that waking state, your brain is still a little bit relaxed, and where you can get the downloads and mindfulness from. I'm definitely I tried it I used to try meditations in the afternoon when I was, first starting, and I couldn't slow my mind enough. I find personally that morning meditations are so beneficial.
Yeah.
But I think that really it's helped a lot with the awareness.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually wasn't thinking of this coming into the conversation, which is great. But it's definitely, I think, especially if you're somebody who wants to just jump out of bed and get going. And I think I have that tendency where if I'm not getting up and meditating, it's up and I'm straight to my phone.
Yeah,
and it's looking, whether it's reading text messages that I missed because I go to bed so early, or all the emails that came in, and then, or check Instagram and our post from last night, and then then all of a sudden you're just down that rabbit hole of nonsense. But on the day, every day, most days, now that I get up and meditate first thing in the morning, it's exactly what you said. It's that reset. It's kind of, you can catch yourself and sort of gain control. Bring your awareness to that moment. And then as you come out of your meditation and you're kind of aware and you're in that present moment, then the next thing that you do is going to be with intention and it's on purpose. So if it's meditate and then I'm going to have lemon water instead of coffee, in that moment, you're not going to just spring up from your meditation and go into autopilot. You're at least giving yourself a few minutes where you can be okay, now I'm up.
Exactly.
Now I feel good. Now I'm going to go squeeze that lemon into my water. Then what's next? And then it's that pace to your thoughts is so much easier to handle than when everything's coming in at once. Because that feeling too. And it's just like you're saying before, that I don't know, what was the analogy?
Treadmill
yeah,
mind.
That treadmill. I was something spinning of
treadmill,
thoughts. Yeah.
Hamster wheel.
But
Constant.
It's just that river of thoughts that just flows right through you, where you can't kind of catch your bearings, where everything's coming in. Where it's no, you can shut that off with meditation, and then you can have so much more intention, and then that carries over. Where it's you do the first thing, you do the next thing, you're in so much of a better spot. Then hopefully you get into the car to drive to work and you can take a different route. Because you're not just on autopilot. You can be present in the moment. You can pay attention.
Yeah. And you can do that simply the example of driving a car. If you're someone who loves to walk, but you go for the same walk every single day, the same directions, the same streets, change it up.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you'll see something really cool and different, whether it be a house or a structure, or maybe you'll bump into someone that you didn't think,
anything could happen.
It's just, the routine. It's not that it's bad, but it's also, it can be exciting for the littlest, simplest change that the universe may gift you with something unexpected. Yeah. I should say gift you, same thing as reward you. We're not telling people to change every single aspect of their lives. Of course, that's not at all what we're trying to do. But for those people who do want to change, or at least be conscious about maybe the autopilot that they're going through their day-to-day life, just kind of think about those things that are monotonous and that you really actually don't think about because you're on autopilot. And if there's something different or something you could add to it, or even if you're not looking to change it, you can reap the benefits and rewards from being a little bit off of your schedule.
Worst case scenario, if you just do something out of the ordinary and different throughout the day, you're going to create new pathways in your brain.
Yes.
So if you're if all you do is the exact same thing all day, every day, like I was saying, you're building these pathways, and these specific roots and synapses in your brain get stronger and stronger and stronger, and everything else gets neglected. But when you start having to do novel things, your brain has to create new pathways.
Yes.
That's the neural plasticity of your brain. Like, that's how you stay young, that's how you stay vital, that's how you stay cognitive, is because you're forcing your brain to keep growing and to keep working.
Yeah, it's learning.
That's what exactly learning, and you can do that at any age.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like kids in school. You're learning science. You're learning math. You're learning writing. Well, we're not in school anymore, but we are in Earth school. So we need to fire those electrons in our brain to keep us healthy and vital and embrace change, because it's gonna help keep our brain functioning for longer.
And the opposite is that it deteriorates and you lose that cognition, and you don't want that. But I'm saying that's worst case scenario. Like, best case, like I was saying before, like, your life is the result of all these patterns. So as you start creating more beneficial patterns, the result starts becoming more beneficial. Your life will get better. Like, I completely 100% promise you that your life will get better as you create better habits, create better patterns. And I think where this gets like really juicy and interesting is like the first 7 years of your life. You literally, that's when your body like creates the majority of these patterns. So
you're a sponge.
So you are literally a sponge. Your brain is a sponge. For the first 7 years of your life, you're absorbing patterns and like this software to run your life, because you're a baby and you're a little child and you don't know how the world works.
Dan's literally talking about like in utero.
Yeah, so
in
starting
utero,
in the third trimester in utero through your first 7 years.
Literally, child. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not like 7 years of your adult life. Like, this is what we're talking about. Because you're picking up on the patterns of your parents, your family members, who you're around at that time. You're, like you said, your brain, you are a sponge. You're learning all these mechanisms. And then again, it becomes autopilot. You know, I come from a very stressful family. My whole family is very anxious and kind of always doing 100 things and trying to keep our mind going. Again, treadmill mind. And that's what I'm just, trying to be much more aware of. It's not that I don't like it, but it can cause me to be frantic a lot of the time and not be present in the moment, which I know is most important. And that is for myself. I want to be more present in the moment. I want to take things with a more calmer approach and really, again, I'm doing this for me. Yeah. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a helpful tidbit. But it's like like Bruce Lipton always uses the example of, like, you can see, like, you have a friend and you realize that, like, oh, my friend is turning into his father. Like, and it's like, and you see, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you see somebody.
We've got a lot of those.
Yeah. But it's like, he uses the example all the time where, like, you grow up with somebody, you recognize the patterns, you see that, like as this person gets old, like, he talks like his father, acts like his father, has same mannerisms, looks like him. And then you like point that out to somebody and they get all upset. And it's like, no, I'm not. Like, what are you talking about?
Yep.
Because that person, they don't realize that 97% of their thoughts and actions are happening subconsciously, and they're picking up all these behaviors that they subconsciously mimicked growing up. It was a really cool study. I remember, I think I read about it, reading about or hearing someone talk about, where it was like studying the gait patterns of kids in like elementary school. So it was like how they walk, and it was like, is there a reason that some people walk, one way, some people walk more pigeon foot, more duck footed, how quickly they walk. And there was an interesting thing. They had this big study, I forget the specific numbers, but there was like a bunch of these like outliers who were like young kids in like second or third grade who kind of shuffled their feet when they walked. And it's like almost like they weren't picking them up, they're like dragging. And it was really, really weird, because that's not how people like learn how to walk. It was like they were like walking like they were old men or old women. And it turns out, as they looked into the research, every one of those kids had been raised by their grandparents and not their parents.
That's so interesting.
It was so cool. It was like such an interesting thing because it's like a tiny little thing that no one would ever think about. Nobody ever thinks like, okay, like I'm teaching my kid how to walk. Like my kid walks and it's like one foot in front of the other. But like the kind of pattern where like you see them walking and then like maybe you might notice a kid who's like 8 and kind of walks the same way as his father or his mother or whatever that is. But it's like this really weird thing where like nobody ever taught. Like this like old man raising this little boy never said like, and now we're going to walk like this. They just did it. And the kid never thought like, well, of who should I look at? It'll be him and I'll follow him. But it's like the person that you're around the most, the person you spend time with, they're picking up all these habits. Mm-hmm. So we tend to get the idea that there's like diseases that run in our family, or like, oh well, like being overweight runs in my family, diabetes runs in my family, like anxiety and stress runs in my family. Like, oh well, my dad had Alzheimer's, my grandfather had Alzheimer's, I'm gonna get Alzheimer's. But we never, I feel like it's starting to become a little more popular now that people are noticing, but like, so do lifestyle factors. Mm-hmm. People also tend to eat the same as their parents and their grandparents. Yeah. They tend to gossip kind of the same amount. Like things like that run rampant in families. Just like stress, like you said, like stress, how you deal with things.
Mm-hmm. Just like brands, car brands.
Exactly, yeah.
Clothes brands.
How you think about money, how you think about work, how you think about school. Yeah. All these things, like all these ideas. And that's what I was kind of hinting at before, where it's like, whose patterns are you running? Are these all conscious patterns that you developed because that's the best way to live? Or did you never think about it and your brain just copied all the people that were around you and you run that pattern? And that's how, like, to kind of come back to what I was saying about like Bruce Lipton, it's like that's how you end up being, 36 and noticing
that you're just like your dad.
Noticing patterns that like, oh, well, that's weird. I just said the thing that my dad says. Or
always.
I walk like my dad. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot. Like, it's
deep. I love it.
This definitely runs deep. But yeah, just like kind of like the speech patterns.
Yeah.
Every little thing. It's like they can all be changed. And they're all the result of the patterns that are running.
Exactly. And it's not, some of them are great and some of them aren't so great. That's all dependent on, how you want to change or how you want to be. But now, hopefully, we put that little seed in your head and you're going to dive deep into, okay, wait a minute, where are these patterns coming from? And maybe you do want to change. If you don't, hey, that's all right. Maybe you picked up really great ones and they're unique to you and you made them your own. Absolutely. But if there are things that you do want to change, small incremental steps are going to help you build, that momentum. Take the ones that you can, like I said, we'll take the example for the walk. If you're someone who loves to walk and you go the same route every single day, just try a different route. Yeah. Again, it may be really rewarding and interesting to see what's going to come about. Yeah. And then after you survived that different route, the next day maybe change it up, instead of, taking that nice warm shower that you do, get into a freezing cold shower for just 15 seconds. Again, it's just that little change. It's the breaking of the habit. Yeah. Not that it's a bad habit to take, warm showers, but hey, if your body can endure 15 seconds of freezing cold,
I promise you'll be present.
Yeah, I was
just going to be in the moment.
And then you'll get deeper and say, okay, what can I try next?